Too Much Light is a unique experience certainly in Chicago theater, I think in American theater in that way, that it really is an unreproducible event that takes place on that night and will never be the same again.
It's theater that you have a dynamic relationship with. It's performance that never stops acknowledging that you're there and you're part of the equation.
You can go to any type of theater and sit there and watch the show, but this isn't one of them. If I'm ever in the show, I will not allow the audience to sit there and not experience the show with us, because that's a big part of the show.
A great portion of why people do theater is like that community and being in a room together and trying to create some moment where there's an exchange. And I really believe the Neo-Futurists have that in ACEs.
There's a perception that the arts and theater specifically just isn't germane to people's lives, and I think this is a really good example of why it is and why it brings people together. And I think that makes for a really strong community, and I think it makes a strong argument for why theater is so important today.
What happens is we try to perform 30 original plays in 60 minutes. We give you a menu for the evening, which are the 30 plays, 30 play titles.
All the names of the plays that we have for that week, all 30 plays, are printed out on the back of numbers 1 through 30, and the numbers are hung on a clothesline.
That's just a way for the audience to see the play that they want, because they decide the order of the show, and they shout out that number.
And the first number that we hear, we jump up, pull that number down, read the title of the play, and then we say the word go. After the word go, a play happens.
And those pieces are anywhere from 5 seconds to 5 minutes, and they are all over the map. Some are funny, some are political, some are sad, some I still don't understand.
When the play is over, we, the performers, say curtain. And hopefully we get through all 30 in 60 minutes. If we don't, then you see 60 minutes worth of Too Much Light Makes the Baby Go Blind.
Once there was a group of people sitting in a dark theater. Some of them had been to the theater before. Some of them had sat in the dark before.
Too Much Light plays are pretty much written individually. We each, by Sunday night, we know how many new plays have to go into the show for the following week.
We roll a die on Friday and Sunday. We take the total of those two numbers, and so anywhere from 2 to 12 plays get changed out every week. The great thing about the show is that you've never seen the show twice the same way.
You never know what to expect. You never come here and you sit down and know what kind of show you're really going to see, or how your views are going to be changed that night, or what you're going to laugh at that you didn't expect to find funny.
Like the roller coaster, like just across the spectrum of like the emotional ride of the show, which is exciting.
I love when we can do that, when we can make the audience laugh and a second later make them startled. And I think it's that ability to turn on a dime that makes the show so engaging.
We think of ourselves as a living newspaper that reflects whatever's going on in the world as well as in our own lives. I think a lot of the audience gets to know us very intimately because we're expressing our own experiences of the world.
Sometimes we come to rehearsal and something big has gone on, like an election or some kind of big catastrophe or some big news item, and 3 or 4 of us will come in with our own take on whatever that news event was.
The basic aesthetic of the show it comes from a place of personal honesty, but it's not just in that we're talking about ourselves and we're telling truths about ourselves. We're also trying to be as honest as possible with the art itself. We don't pretend that we're anywhere else but inside a theater. We are always ourselves. We are always, we refer to each other by our names on stage.
You have this kind of personal relationship with a room of strangers, which is like, it creates good theater, but sometimes it's exciting and sometimes it's a little like...
scary, basically. And I think theater and performance should be scary to a certain degree.
I think it takes courage and restraint, because you have to know when to kind of cut yourself off and not just have it turn into therapy in there, and when to go ahead and share a little more. for the sake of the art to make it more real, more honest.
In 30 different pieces, you can try so many things. If we just had one show a night, we would be so much more conservative about what was funny, what went in, what we were willing to try. So I think as an artist, that's a great freedom. Not only having 50 weeks a year of performance, but these short pieces that you can really try anything it's a real gift.
Does anyone have any quarters?
When we do a show, especially Fridays and Saturdays, it's maybe not like a traditional theater audience in a way that, like, I don't know, people don't have to dress up when they come here, so maybe that's what I gauge as a traditional theater audience. They're not wearing slacks.
I find that it is an art form that very much appeals to everyone, no matter what their age, race, racial background, sexual orientation, all these things. I think people feel very embraced and open and honest and connected here.
I think a lot of people have decided, for whatever reason, that they don't like theater. They're not going to see theater, but they'll come see this. And maybe that leads them to going to see other shows. I have a lot of people who say, you know, I never saw theater until I saw your show, and I don't know whether it's because it's late night or it's an hour long, but it feels approachable.
One of our main goals is that theater should be accessible and intimate. And so something to remember is that this is a really cheap show. And we try to welcome everybody, and that's why I think we've got the audience that every other theater company in the country would kill for.
The thing about the show is that it's so low maintenance that we can do the show anywhere almost.
Our first tour was to New York City in 1991.
Gigs are sort of one night only sort of things. We'll do a show at a college, and tours are longer.
I've toured all over the country from Seattle to Houston to
Louisville. Just recently we were in New Jersey.
The last place I went to was Beaver Creek, Colorado.
Some regional theaters in America like Jiva in Rochester, out to Woolly Mammoth Theater in DC.
to Romania, to England.
The Fringe Festival in Edinburgh, Scotland.
You know, the audience seems to respond honestly the same way. They seem to really eat it up anywhere we go. They really feel the authenticity of what we're doing, and it makes for really that unique sense of this experience really comes across. The show actually started at Oberlin College, where I was studying the Italian Futurist movement from pre-World War I Italy. And I was very inspired by their outrageous manifestos and their concept of doing very brief theater that would synopsize large ideas into very short moments.
I think it's a pretty big accomplishment to be around for 20 years and so many different neo-futurists. I mean, there's over 40 or 50 of us that have gone through the doors.
I think the longevity of the show is kind of built into its interchangeability, its flexibility. It's the fact that it hasn't been 20 years of the same show. It's been 20 years of the same format.
This show was started with no money, a simple idea, and very luckily just grew to be what it is. And I would hope that people look at that and say, I'm going to start doing something creatively. I'm going to think about what it is I want to do and how I want to shape it, and that we in some way inspire people to take the reins and make their own art.